Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be kind of like strapping on our racing helmets,
Yeah.
and diving into this world where like luxury watches and the Formula One racing world kind of collide.
Yeah.
And we've got some really fascinating articles about this one particular timepiece.
Oh, yeah.
It's called the IWC Big Pilot's Watch, Shock Absorber, XPL, Toto Wolff X, Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One Team Edition.
It's a mouthful.
Yes, the name is a mouthful.
Yeah.
But as we'll see, I think this watch has quite a lot to say for itself.
It really does. And what I think is really interesting about it is that it's sort of, I don't know, it throws down the gauntlet in terms of durability. You know, it's not a watch that's just going to survive a drop off your nightstand. This is about withstanding forces that most of us can't even fathom.
Right. Yeah, like the press release says, over 30,000 Gs.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, way beyond what any human could endure, let alone what a watch really needs for daily wear.
Right.
So what's the point of that kind of toughness?
Well, I mean, think about it. IWC has a history of pilots' watches.
Right.
And you know, those are tools that were built for extreme conditions where reliability could really be a matter of life or death.
Yeah.
But today, most luxury watch buyers aren't fighter pilots.
Ah.
So, you know, creating a watch with this level of shock resistance, it's really kind of a statement.
Yeah.
You know, it's IWC saying, you know, we engineer for the absolute extreme because that's who we are.
It's kind of like a flex, but a flex that's rooted in their heritage.
Exactly. You know, it's a way to showcase their capabilities, their commitment to precision, even if most wearers will never actually truly test those limits.
Right.
And it also plays into this idea of aspirational luxury, you know, aligning yourself with these values of performance and resilience, even if you know your daily life is a bit more pedestrian.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. So, okay, before we get into the Toto Wolff edition specifically, you mentioned that this is building off of an existing model, right?
Yeah, absolutely. This limited edition is actually a variation of the IWC Big Pilot's Watch Shock Absorber XPL.
Oh.
And their experimental engineering team really kind of went all out on this one, you know?
Yeah.
The goal was to design a watch that could withstand shocks, you know, way beyond anything imaginable.
And how did they pull that off? What's the secret sauce inside?
Yeah. So the secret ingredient here is something called the Sprin J Protect system.
Okay.
And essentially, they suspend the entire watch movement, so all the gears and tiny components that keep time inside the case, using a special spring that's made of bulk metallic glass, or BMG.
Okay, BMG. I mean, that sounds like something Iron Man would have in his suit.
I know, right?
You're going to have to break that down for me.
Yeah, so BMG is a type of metal alloy with a very unique atomic structure. And unlike most metals, where the atoms are arranged in this very orderly pattern, BMG has a disordered, almost chaotic arrangement.
Oh, wow.
And this actually makes it incredibly elastic and able to absorb massive amounts of energy without breaking or deforming.
Wow. So the watch movement is basically like floating inside the case on this super spring, protecting it from impact. But how do they know it actually works? Did they like strap it to a rocket or something?
Well, not a rocket, but pretty close. They had a French Navy pilot commander, Etienne Bauer, wear this watch while he was flying a Rafale fighter jet.
Oh.
So you can imagine the G-forces he's pulling in those maneuvers, and the fact that this watch kept ticking through all of that is a serious testament to its durability.
Okay, that's super impressive.
Yeah.
So we have this super tough watch built for these really extreme conditions, and then they decide to make a special edition in collaboration with Toto Wolff. So for those of us who may not follow Formula One religiously, who is that?
So Toto Wolff is the team principal and CEO of the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One Team.
Okay.
And he's basically the mastermind behind the team's strategy operations and the overall success.
Wow.
And under his leadership, they've won a record-breaking 8 consecutive World Constructors Championships.
8 in a row. That's like a dynasty.
Yeah.
So, okay, this watch is linked to a leader in the world of Formula One. But how does this special edition actually differ from the original shock absorber? Is it just like a fancy paint job?
Well, the core shock resistance, you know, the technology all remains the same.
Yeah.
But the Toto Wolff edition has some key aesthetic distinctions.
Yeah.
The most noticeable change is the black dial, which now features this really cool textured surface.
Ah.
Kind of like imagine running your fingers across like a fine grain leather. It's that kind of subtle, luxurious feel.
Oh, so they're adding a touch of elegance to this rugged tool watch.
Exactly. And the hands and the markers on the dial have also been redesigned.
Yeah.
for a more modern look. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Remember that BMG spring we talked about? Well, in this edition, it's coated with Petronas green superluminova, so it actually glows in the dark.
Oh, wow. Okay, now that is cool.
Yeah.
So even in the dark, you get a glimpse of that high-tech heart beating inside. It's like a secret handshake for those who know what they're looking at.
Yeah.
It seems like they put a lot of thought into the design of this watch.
They really did.
But it does make you wonder,
Yeah.
why go to all this trouble for a limited edition designed for someone who, let's be honest, isn't going to be pulling those fighter pilot G-forces.
Right.
I mean, Toto Wolff is a brilliant team leader, but he's not actually behind the wheel.
Yeah, you hit on a really fascinating point, and it's that, this watch, especially in this limited edition format, is as much about storytelling and symbolism as it is about technical achievement.
So you're saying it's not really for Toto Wolff in a practical sense, but it's using his image to tell a story about the watch.
Exactly. Think about the qualities that Toto Wolff embodies, strategic thinking, leadership, the ability to perform under pressure.
Right.
These are the same qualities that IWC wants to associate with this watch.
Yeah.
It's about appealing to a certain type of customer,
Oh.
someone who might be drawn to those values, even if they're not, an F1 driver or a fighter pilot themselves.
Right. So it's playing into that aspirational aspect of luxury we were talking about. But, I mean, are they really saying that wearing this watch will somehow make you a better leader?
Not explicitly, of course, but it's about creating an emotional connection, a sense of belonging to a certain tribe.
Okay.
Think about it. Only 100 of these watches exist worldwide.
Yeah.
Owning one is like having a membership card to a very exclusive club. And that club is all about high-performance resilience, this pursuit of excellence.
It's like wearing a piece of that Mercedes-AMG Petronas winning spirit.
Right.
Even if your daily commute is more likely to involve traffic jams than checkered flags.
Exactly. And that Petronas green loom on that BMG spring, that's another subtle but powerful detail.
Right.
It's a nod to the partnership with Mercedes-AMG Petronas, a reminder of their dominance in the world of Formula One.
Yeah, that green glow really stood out to me.
Right.
It's subtle enough to not be flashy, but if you know what you're looking at, it speaks volumes.
Yeah, it's a watch that rewards those who take the time to appreciate the details and the story behind it.
Okay, but let's flip this around for a second. If we're talking about a watch designed for the world of Formula One, wouldn't it make more sense to create something specifically for the drivers?
Sure.
I mean, they're the ones pushing the limits,
Yeah.
experiencing those crazy G-forces.
That's an interesting question. And, IWC has in the past created watches specifically for motorsport with features like chronograph functions for timing laps.
Right.
But with this watch, it seems they were going for a different kind of statement.
Yeah, it seems almost counterintuitive to design the ultimate shock-resistant watch and then market it to someone who's not going to be in those situations.
Yeah, but that unexpectedness is part of what makes it so intriguing.
Okay.
It's a conversation starter. It forces you to think about why they made those choices, who are they trying to reach, and what message are they trying to convey.
So maybe it's about highlighting that contrast between the watch's extreme capabilities and the relatively controlled environment of the pit lane and the paddock where Toto Wolff operates.
That's a great point. Or maybe it's a way of saying that, the same qualities of precision resilience and split-second decision-making are just as crucial in that strategic world of team management as they are on the racetrack.
Right. So it's not just about the physical act of driving the car. It's about the mental game, the big picture thinking that goes into winning a championship.
Exactly. It's the brains behind the brawn, the cool head under pressure. And those qualities are arguably just as valuable in the boardroom as they are on the track.
Right. Speaking of brains, did we ever talk about the actual movement inside this watch?
Oh, yeah.
We've been so focused on the shock resistance, I almost forgot. There's a whole other world of complexity in there.
Right. So beyond the high-tech shock absorption, this watch is powered by IWC's in-house caliber 32101 movement.
Okay.
And this is a self-winding movement with a 120-hour power reserve.
120 hours. That's 5 days. So you could take this watch off on Friday night and it would still be ticking away come Monday morning.
Exactly. And that kind of power reserve is a testament to the engineering prowess of IWC. It's about creating a movement that's not just accurate, but also incredibly reliable. And speaking of details, this movement is beautifully finished.
Oh.
With Coast de Genève stripes and perlage.
Okay, I'm going to need you to break that down for me.
Yeah.
What are all those fancy terms?
So think of it this way. It's like looking under the hood of a high-performance sports car and seeing a perfectly polished engine, you know?
Oh, okay.
Those decorative patterns and finishes aren't just about aesthetics.
Yeah.
They're also a sign of meticulous craftsmanship and attention to detail.
So even though it's hidden away inside the case,
Yeah.
they still went to all that trouble to make it beautiful.
Absolutely. That's dedication.
And that, I think, brings us back to one of the key themes we've been discussing. You know, this watch is about so much more than just telling time.
Yeah.
It's a statement piece.
Yeah.
It's a conversation starter, a testament to human ingenuity and this pursuit of excellence.
It really does make you appreciate the thought and the craftsmanship that goes into creating something like this. It really does. And it raises some really interesting questions about the future of luxury watchmaking.
Oh, like what?
What if we took this idea of blending extreme durability with high-end design even further?
What do you mean?
Well, we've seen how IWC has pushed the boundaries of shock resistance, right?
Right.
But imagine a watch that could withstand not just physical impacts, but also extreme temperatures, magnetic fields, even deep-sea pressures.
So we're talking about a watch that could go to the moon, explore the depths of the ocean, basically go anywhere you can imagine.
Exactly. And what if we combined that durability with even more advanced features like biometric sensors, GPS tracking, or even augmented reality displays?
Whoa. Now we're talking about a watch that's not just a timepiece. It's like a whole suite of tools and information at your fingertips.
Exactly. And that's where things get really exciting.
Yeah.
Because when you start to combine those possibilities with the artistry and the craftsmanship of traditional watchmaking, you open up a whole new world of potential.
Like the future of horology is just waiting to be unlocked.
Yeah. And who knows what incredible creations we'll see in the years to come.
This has been an incredibly thought-provoking deep dive.
It has.
But before we wrap things up, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier, this idea of designing a watch specifically for an F1 driver.
Yes. Let's dive into that.
So we were just talking about, designing a watch specifically for a Formula One driver.
Yeah.
If you could dream up like the ultimate F1 driver's watch,
Okay.
what would that look like? What kind of features would it have?
Well, I mean, obviously it would need to be incredibly tough.
Yeah.
You know, imagine the vibrations and the impacts these drivers are experiencing at those speeds.
Right.
You would need a case and a movement that could handle those forces without skipping a beat.
Yeah, we've already seen what IWC can do with shock resistance.
Right.
So I'm sure they could create something truly bulletproof for the track.
Yeah.
But beyond just durability, what other kind of features would be like the most useful for an F1 driver?
Well, I think about the kind of information they need at a glance. You know. Yeah.
Lap times, obviously.
Okay.
Maybe a tachymeter bezel for calculating speed based on distance.
Uh-huh.
And with all the technology in these cars, you could potentially integrate sensors that relay telemetry data from the car directly to the watch.
Whoa. Okay, that would be amazing. Imagine seeing your tire pressures, your fuel levels, even G-forces displayed right there on your wrist.
Yeah. Talk about a high-tech edge, right?
Yeah.
And it wouldn't just be about displaying that data. You could also have haptic feedback.
Okay.
Maybe a subtle vibration to alert the driver about an overheated engine or the optimal time to pit.
So it'd be like having a co-pilot right there on your wrist.
Exactly.
Ow.
Feeding you crucial information in real time.
Yeah.
And you could even incorporate GPS tracking, to map out the track and analyze racing lines.
So we're talking about a watch that's not just a timepiece. It's like a performance-enhancing tool almost.
Precisely. And from a design perspective, you'd want something that's lightweight and ergonomic.
Something that's not going to interfere with their driving.
Yeah.
Maybe a titanium case with a breathable strap. Something that feels comfortable even during these intense races.
It'd need to be sleek and aerodynamic, just like the cars themselves.
Exactly. And you could even play with materials and finishes that kind of reflect the aesthetics of the team and the driver's personal brand. Imagine like a carbon fiber dial.
Wow.
A bezel with a ceramic insert, in the team's signature color. A crown shaped like a gear shifter, Now
that's thinking outside the box. So it wouldn't just be a watch, it'd be a statement piece,
Yeah.
A symbol of the driver's connection to their team and to their machine.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe someday we'll actually see something like this on the wrists of F1 drivers?
Yeah.
Technology is evolving so rapidly, the possibilities are really limitless.
It's exciting to think about what the future holds,
Yeah.
For both watchmaking and Formula One. It feels like those two worlds are kind of on a collision course,
They are.
pushing each other to these new levels of innovation and design.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this whole conversation so fascinating.
Yeah.
We started with a deep dive into one specific watch,
Right.
and now we're envisioning the future of an entire industry.
It just goes to show that sometimes the most unexpected objects can spark the most thought-provoking conversations.
I agree, and that's the beauty of the deep dive, right?
Yeah.
It's about looking beyond the surface, exploring the connections between these seemingly disparate things,
Right.
and discovering the hidden stories that shape our world.
Well said. So as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought.
Okay, what's that?
The next time you see a watch, any watch,
Yeah.
take a moment to really look at it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the design choices, the materials, and the story it tells you. Might be surprised by what you discover.
Because even the most seemingly simple object can hold a world of fascinating details, just waiting to be explored.
And on that note, we'll bring this deep dive to a close.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us on this journey into the world of luxury watches and Formula One.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time for another fascinating deep dive. So we were talking about designing this watch specifically for a Formula One driver.
Right.
If you could dream up like the ultimate F1 driver's watch, what would it look like?
Well, I mean,